10 episodes, that's all it took for Game of Thrones to teach an entire generation of viewers a lesson no show had dared to teach before. Nobody is safe. But here's what gets lost in that reputation. Not every death in Season 1 matters equally. Some changed absolutely nothing. Some quietly decided who wins a war. And one of them broke a rule television had followed for 50 years. So today, we're ranking every on-screen death in Season 1 by one question, and one question only. If this person lives, how much does the story change? And before we even get to number 10, we need to talk about a death you never saw. Here's something most people forget. The first death in Game of Thrones Season 1 happens before the show even starts. Jon Arryn, Hand of the King, the man who raised Robert Baratheon and Ned Stark. By the time we see frame 1, he's already in the ground. And why? Because he figured out the one secret that could bring down the crown. Cersei's children aren't Robert's, so his own wife slipped poison into his cup. Tears of lies. On the orders of a man who'd loved her sister since they were kids. Think about that. Everything in Season 1, everything traces back to this. Robert rides north because the job's suddenly open. Ned goes south because his best friend asked. Catelyn gets a letter blaming the Lannisters. A lie. And that lie starts a war. Jon Arryn isn't on this list because we never see him alive. But honestly, he outranks everybody who is. Right. The rules are set. Let's start at the bottom. Number 10. Ser Hugh of the Vale. A freshly knighted kid rides into the Hand's tourney, takes a splintered lance through the throat and drowns in his own blood while the crowd cheers. Now, why does a nobody make this list? Because of who he used to be. Ser Hugh was Jon Arryn's squire. He was in the room when the Hand of the King died. Ned spent 2 episodes trying to get 5 minutes with him, and suddenly this kid is newly knighted, newly rich, and way too busy to talk to a Stark. Then he draws Gregor Clegane in the lists, and dies instantly. Did the Lannisters arrange it? The show never says. It doesn't have to. The one witness Ned needs gets deleted at a public event by the Lannisters' attack dog in front of the entire city, and everyone just shrugs and calls it an accident. That's the moment you realise Ned Stark is playing a game he doesn't understand. Now, Ser Hugh dies before he can talk. The man at number 9? He dies having already said everything, and it changes nothing. Number 9. Ser Waymar Royce, the very first death of the series. And here's the wild part. It's the only death all season caused by the thing this show is actually about. And look, Royce isn't a joke. He's a Royce of Runestone. Old blood, real training. And when the moment comes, he doesn't run. He plants his feet and fights. And his sword shatters against a White Walker's blade like it's made of glass. That's the lesson right there in Scene 1. Courage doesn't matter. Steel doesn't matter. These things are not a bedtime story. So why is he only 9th? Because, brutally, nothing comes of it. One terrified deserter runs south, tells the truth, and Ned Stark takes his head off for it. The warning dies right there in the snow, and the realm goes back to fighting over a chair for 6 more seasons. Okay, that was a death that changed nothing. Number 8 is a death that changes the odds. Jory Cassel. Jaime Lannister holds his head still, almost gently, and puts a dagger through his eye. Takes about 1.5 seconds. And this isn't some random guard. Jory is captain of the Stark household guard. His father died at the Tower of Joy. Ned trusts him with everything that needs handling quietly. And he's killed in the street like he's an inconvenience. 2 things come out of that alley. First, Ned loses the northern men who might actually have protected him. So when the gold cloaks turn on him in the throne room later, there's nobody left, and second, we get recalibrated on Jaime Lannister. Up to this point, he's a smirking pretty boy with an ugly nickname. Turns out, the nickname's earned. Jory dies in a street fight in the capital. Number 7, Lady, a direwolf. Who did nothing? Here's the sequence. Nymeria bites Joffrey, defending Arya. Arya drives her wolf away to save its life, so Cersei, denied her revenge, demands the other wolf instead. And Robert, tired, checked out, agrees just to end the argument. And Ned does it himself. Because in his world, the man who passes the sentence swings the sword. And because he will not hand his daughter's dog to a Lannister executioner. The fallout here is almost entirely emotional, but it's massive. Sansa learns her father won't protect her from the Lannisters. Arya learns that being right doesn't help, and the two sisters stop trusting each other for 4 seasons. Number 6, Mycah, the butcher's boy. He plays at swords with Arya, gets caught in Joffrey's cruelty, runs for his life, and Sandor Clegane cuts him nearly in half. Why so high? The Shadow. Mycah is the first name on Arya's list. He's why the Hound is on it at all. So, when Arya finally stands over a dying Sandor Clegane, she doesn't grant him mercy, she just walks away. One of the show's best relationships, built on the murder of a child we barely meet, and the Hound's report, coldest line of the season. The boy ran, not very fast, a child nobody thought about twice, echoing for 7 seasons. Number 5 is the exact opposite, a knight nobody mourns, whose death rewrites the war. Ser Vardis Egen, decent knight of the Vale, loses a trial by combat to a sellsword. Out the moon door he goes. So what? Follow the dominoes. Vardis loses, Tyrion walks free, recruits the hill tribes and strolls into his father's camp with an army. Tywin sends him to King's Landing as acting hand, where he fires Janos Slint, breaks Cersei's grip on the council and saves the city at the Blackwater. Run it the other way. Vardis wins. Tyrion goes out the moon door and Stannis takes King's Landing a year later. One sellsword refusing to fight fair changes who wins the war. Number 4 frees his sister by dying. Viserys Targaryen, a crown for a king, poured from a cooking pot. Viserys is the most insufferable man on 2 continents, and his death is the season's most satisfying moment, which is exactly why people underrate what it does. The second that gold hits his skull, Daenerys becomes the last Targaryen. She is the claim now, not the bargaining chip attached to it. And she watches molten gold kill a Targaryen and quietly concludes, "Fire cannot kill a dragon. Her brother was no dragon." That's not a cool line. It's a hypothesis. 4 episodes later, she tests it on a funeral pyre. Number 3, one entry because you can't pull them apart. Drogo, Rhaego, and Mirri Maz Duur. One event, one transaction. Drogo's shallow cut festers. Daenerys, desperate, buys blood magic from a woman whose village his Khalasar just burned. Mirri Maz Duur names a price Dany doesn't understand. Only death may pay for life. Rhaego dies in the womb. Drogo comes back as a body that breathes, nothing else. Daenerys smothers her own husband, then she straps Mirri Maz Duur to the pyre, lights it, and walks in after her. And 3 petrified stones, a wedding gift from episode 1, crack open. It costs her a husband, a son, an army, and every protection she had. It buys her the only 3 creatures alive that can win a war by themselves. Every season after this runs on the currency paid out on that pyre. That's the death that creates the dragons. The top 2, They create the war. Number 2. Robert Baratheon, killed by a boar, blind drunk, because his squire kept topping up his wine, on the Queen's orders. The most Robert death imaginable, not so much murdered, as helped along. Why second? Because Robert is the load-bearing wall. While he breathes, Ned is untouchable. Cersei can't move, Joffrey can't rule. Renly and Stannis have no claim to press. Robert dies, and inside one episode, Ned's in a black cell, Joffrey's on the throne, Renly's fled south, and 5 men are claiming a realm that had one king a week ago. Every death in the rest of this series happens because a fat man went hunting. Number 1. Eddard Stark. Of course it's Ned. He kneels before the whole city and confesses to a treason he didn't commit, because Cersei promised him his daughters' lives. The one dishonourable act of his life. He does it for Sansa, and Joffrey beheads him anyway. With ice, Ned's own sword, the one we watched him cleaning in the Godswood in episode 1. Plot-wise, the case is airtight. It starts the War of the 5 Kings, makes Robb a king, puts Arya on the road, leaves Sansa a hostage, and removes the story's moral centre permanently. But really, it's number 1 because of what it did to US. In 2011, television did not do this. Ned Stark was the man on the poster, Sean Bean the name selling the show. And they killed him, on a technicality of honour in front of his own daughter, and just carried on. After that, nobody in this world was safe, and every viewer knew it. Season 1 doesn't earn its reputation because of dragons or direwolves. It earns it because of one execution that told you the rules had changed, and that's the list. Tell me in the comments, where did I get this ranking wrong? If this earned it, subscribe. The rest of the seasons are coming.